All right. Hi there. I'm Mike Creevy for Homeschool Connections, and with me today is Homeschool Connections instructor Greg Pyne. Greg, thanks so much for joining us today.
Good to be here, Mike.
I do have to ask you, do you ever get confused with Father Gregory Pyne?
I so
I'm
I'm
sure
glad
you've
that
been
my
asked this before.
attention that there is a Father Gregory Pyne. I actually have his book Prudence, and
Okay.
it's very prudent of me not to say that I wrote it.
I was going to say, do you give it out to anybody?
No, but I think it's pretty awesome. I have a religious doppelganger.
That's pretty good.
I think that's awesome.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to teach for Homeschool Connections? I know you're coming back to Homeschool Connections
Yeah, yeah.
now as well.
Yeah, I met Maureen Whitman through the Chesterton Society conferences back in the early 2010s. And she learned that I was a teacher. I teach AP literature at West Orange High School here in Florida. And she said, "Hey, would you like to join us at Homeschool Connections and teach maybe some C.S. Lewis or Chesterton?" And of course, I jumped at it. That was
Yeah.
around 2017, and then she said this year, "Hey, we need someone to teach Lord of the Rings," and she didn't even
Nice.
have to say finish the sentence, and I was like, "I'm in, I'm in, I'm in, no problem."
That's so cool. So have you, so, you obviously have a Chesterton Lewis Tolkien kind of interest. I just showed you. I can't show it now, but yeah, my picture's up there. Maybe tell us a little bit more about just kind of your, how do they kind of feature in your own kind of, background and just, what do you really love about teaching them
Wow.
10 words or less? No,
Oh my
I'm sure it's a
goodness.
lot.
Um, I am a convert to the Catholic Church, and I essentially read my way into the church through Lewis, and then Tolkien, and then Chesterton. In my literary studies, things seem to like stopgap and end. It seems at the modernist era. When you
Yeah,
get the most kind of nihilistic and depressing kind of literature, and that was it. And
right.
I was like, this can't be the end. And then I stumbled across Lewis and Tolkien and Chesterton, who are really counter the modernist movement in the early 20th century. And that just kind of revived me and my love of stories, my love of literature. And I just pursued studies in them, and they not only illuminated, uh, uh, you know, my understanding of the faith, but understanding of literature in general.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know with the, like the Lewis kind of gets, I don't want to say a bad rap, but I know a lot of people that love his Ransom trilogy don't like the third volume that much, that Hideous Strength, which I don't know, I really enjoy it. There's a good audio book version of it I like as well, but it's just like I kind of appreciate that exploration of these, transcendent things through that kind of mundane, like
Yeah,
he's very critical of that, postmodern progressive, kind of like where is this leading us? And it's very prophetic, I find, with all three of them. They're always so prophetic. So,
absolutely.
yeah,
Along with Chesterton and Tolkien, they seem to uh, uh, prophesy from their writings in the 30s, 40s, 50s to situations that we're dealing with today.
yeah,
And when we need a little bit more a strength and kind of like just more sense of a confidence.
mm,
I think they kind of offer that.
sure.
Mm.
Well, so with Lord of the Rings, like so with teaching this specifically in the homeschool connections environment and teaching like online, like how do you begin that? How do you go about that? What are just some highlights that you'd say for folks, just kind of give them a taste of it?
Yeah, we are starting from the beginning. We are starting with The Hobbit, and we are going through Fellowship of the Ring, The Two
Nice.
Towers, and The Return of the King. We are covering the scope from what is a Hobbit to the crowning of the rightful king of
Nice.
Gondor, and just the epic level of Lord of the Rings offers just a multitude of various paths that you can go down. And I really think it's a journey. I really think
Yeah.
this particular story is a journey. Of course, it features a journey, but it's a journey in and of itself. And the number of characters that you come across that you can identify with, that you immerse into their experience is just very, very, very powerful. So the themes of loyalty and friendship and the undergoing of hardship, all these things that are really indicative of our own faith journey as well, are kind of manifest in Lord of the
Yeah,
Rings as well. It makes it a very, very powerful piece of literature, but especially I think for those of the faith as well.
sure. That's I forget where I just heard a podcast recently where someone was talking about the power, the again, evangelical power of just the story itself, without it, of course, being directly allegory. Because I think anyone who knows anything about Tolkien at all, I'm no expert, but I've read a couple places of his attitude about you know um, allegory,
Yeah,
and,
he
that it
disliked
can
it.
be
Yeah.
right, the style. And I just think I forget where I heard this in this podcast recently, where someone said that they had been living a really, or they had a friend who had been living a really dissolute life, and he got to the point where he was so in love with these characters that he found himself in his own life basically resisting certain sinful behaviors because he had this notion Aragorn wouldn't do that. And I
Yeah,
just thought, my goodness, like that is so
the
so perfect.
the
Yeah,
models that the characters offer,
yeah,
and both good and bad, right? Yeah, because you'll have characters who fall as
yeah.
well. Aragorn himself doubts himself
Right,
very much
right.
at some point. He doesn't feel he can lead the company after at Gandalf's fall. We have Boromir that
Mm,
succumbs to his temptation to the ring, but gains redemption of that afterwards. And I
yeah.
think his brother Faramir, even more so, has that. Sam asks him, "Will you show your character, sir? It's time for you to
Hmm.
show your character," and he does.
Yeah.
And again, these very powerful characters. And yes, Tolkien didn't like allegory, but what he did um, really aspire to was what he called subcreating.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's a very powerful idea of the faith in and of itself, in
Yes.
that if God is our Father and God is a creator, then he engenders that in us as well, to create the good, the true, and the beautiful in order to further his kingdom. And I think Tolkien does
Yeah.
that, you know, unequivocally.
Yeah. I think it's something I've heard other places referred to. It's almost like a sacramental aspect to it, right? Or this like instantiation, right? Here, like here's an instance of this just always profound truth.
Mhm.
That is it's just incredible that any little snippet, if I'm just like I need to read something for a few minutes. I don't know what to read. I'll just grab Fellowship or Two Towers, whatever. Flip.
Yeah.
You can almost flip to any page, and it's just incredible because it's. I really feel it's like an exegetical experience rather than an eisegetical. Like I don't read. Oh, that's like this in the modern world. It's like it's just it comes out of it. It's so. I haven't read many things like that.
And and you discover it through the eyes of the hobbits as well. The hobbits are ensconced in their home of the Shire, and characteristic of most hobbits is that they don't see beyond, right?
Hmm.
In some way, they don't need to, and even Elrond, the elf, at one point says, "We preserve them from not knowing just so they can live as they will live." That's one of the benefits that the elves think of protecting this land. But your
Sure.
eyes are open through Pippin, through Merry, through Frodo, through Bilbo, to this larger world, and their innocent eyes, experiencing it. And I think there's more almost appreciation there of the stronger figures that you'll have,
Yeah.
like Gandalf and Aragorn, because of who's leading us through. These
Yes.
small characters heretofore not counted as much in this world at
Right.
all, but end up being a pivotal
Yeah.
part of Middle Earth in its history.
Yeah. Oh, Greg, I'm afraid if I don't stop it now, I'll never stop asking you questions. So this is hopefully just a great preview to kind of wet people's whistle. How can people learn more? Students, families. What's a good place for them to get in touch with you or find out more about what they've got coming, what you have coming up here?
Yeah, absolutely. We have the Homeschool Connections website. I want to guide folks through there. I can also be reached at my own email, gwpine@gmail.com as well. And I'm just looking forward to starting this journey with the students as well. I don't care how many times I've walked down this path, there's always something new. And one of my favorite things is just to see students' eyes open up to a new experience on this as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Greg Pine, thank you so much for stopping by today and sharing with us about your Homeschool Connections course. Is really excited for it.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. God bless.